Hi, I'm Ruth Kenner from I Quilt and More. Today we're going to talk about color and just do it. But as usual, I'm so obsessed with the organization and making sure that I get things done. I always like to add a few tidbits. I just read an article somewhere in the internet about the University of London did research and that multitasking actually makes us go down in IQ points. So let's not sabotage ourselves. Of course, we do a lot of things. We like to juggle a lot of things, but at once we want to focus. We want to juggle. We want to pile things up. We want to organize it in a way that we don't sabotage ourselves because we just want to get things done. So I thought that I would show you the project page of the Quilters Planner. And I know the year already started, so for those of you who don't have it yet, I still think it's worthwhile. I learned about it in 2017 and I waited until 2018 to buy it. What a silly thing. I've already got it a few on there. Some of them I decided to use 3 lines and that was a mistake. I won't do that again. These are projects that were brought out from last year because last year at the end of the year just as I was finishing up several quilts, I got a new sewing machine, which is a good thing. So I am at the end of finishing them. I have one new project here and I most likely will fill this up as time goes on. There's several projects and I really like it. The other thing that I wanted to show you, because we're talking about color, is they have a reference page about color theory. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about color theory. I read this. I have several articles and things that I use for color theory. And just to say that even though I love color theory and I think it's important to know all this stuff, when I'm actually picking out the colors I'm going to use, I basically chuck it. It's gone. So this is the color computer and I've had this for so many years. I found it on Amazon just recently and I will leave a link to it. I purposely cut it and retaped it in order to get this so I could take it apart because that's what I do. So we all know, or we should, if we're quilters, know the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. And then we mix those colors to get the secondary colors. And then we have the colors that are in between. And it can go either way. You can get a green that's more yellow or a green that's more blue. That's how we make the colors. We have all sorts of things here that I really like. So like they have like little codes here. If you use violet and you add red, what you get. I really like that. I really like this side. Even when I have this on, I like the way there's all different things that you can use to find things. But when I'm actually doing it, I actually get rid of it. Sometimes I will just pick a color and then go to my stash and see what I have in there. But I look at it a lot and I know it, but when I'm picking it out, I'm picking it out. I don't use these things. It's I think it's bouncing around somewhere in my head. That I'm convinced about. So going on, this is what I'm going to talk about, a few colors and how I picked it. This is quilt for my son. It's not done yet. I did all of the quilting on my 153 and everything I left except for these triangles and also quilting on threads to cover up the raw edges. And these were actually quilted on. But what I'm showing you is these are the parts that I'm going to quilt so it'll look the same with my new machine once I get to that because I've decided they're too big. But these are the colors that I'm the most comfortable with. I'm the most comfortable with making decisions with this color group. It's not that I like them more. I don't know what it is. I feel comfortable. I don't second guess myself. I'm braver. I make less mistakes that I have to rip out. So though I do it with everything, and this is the sidekick, it's the same thing. And I'm going to be adding just the binding on this and go from there. So what I'm going to show you is how I made these decisions with a quilt that I did based on this. Because what happened is that I realized that I had all this extra material in the background. These backgrounds are what are called fractured blocks, and I'm hoping sometime to do a video on how I make fractured blocks, because it's a really good way of making backgrounds, in my opinion, especially for art quilts. So I had all this extra, and it was time for me to make the sew-along, this quilt. So if you see this quilt, these are the colors, and the half of the quilt, half of the blocks are with a darker color, and the rest are with the background. So I decided that if I was going to make this scrappy and do that method, I would buy one color and then use the background, all the scraps, and each block would be very scrappy. So sounds like a good idea. And I went ahead and I picked out this fabric to go, so it'll bring all of them in. And then I went online and I went to buy this. And at the same time, for my son's quilt, I decided I would buy this color, or this, for the binding. And I thought, well, I'm doing this right now. I'm far away from the binding. So why don't I buy this background, buy a few other things this month. The next month I'll buy that. So I got it and I opened it up, and I had made a mistake. Not the store, I had made the mistake, and I had actually bought this. So I experimented and I put it by it, and I said, well, I didn't make a mistake. It's not going to be like they're doing it in the store, but it's going to work. And that's how this came about. And when I put this online, when I did the sew along, the pictures, people asked me about the colors. Well, I bought it by accident. It was the best mistake I made. Then going on, I decided to make the quilt bigger, so I was going to do the edges or do borders. So I thought that I was going to do this, and then a purple. So it would all match. And I looked at it and I decided that is really boring. So I went to the quilt store and I bought this. And even though it's all the way around, and hopefully this is all finished, and the top is finished, and it's waiting just to be quilted, and I'm going to start quilting. The date is March, when I'm done with my son's quilt and several other art projects that I'm working on, and some sewing. So that's how I got to this, and I think that this came out really good. I love the colors. I love what I did, but this is the area that I'm comfortable with. Now, going from there, I'm going to show you some things that I'm not so comfortable with, okay? And yet I do it because I don't want to limit myself to what I feel good at. And so going from there, I have this quilt, and I made this quilt quite a few years ago. And you can see it's an art quilt. I think it was designed first in, I think it was EQ6. I don't know. I don't remember. But this background is fractured. I usually design a quilt and then pick the quilt colors. So that's what happened here. And I had the background. I had this picked out. Everything. I was stuck what I was going to do with the background. I had black and white, but I wasn't sure. So what did I do? I picked yellow and put in some orange and gold from there when I do the fractures. And I went to my baby quilt supply. I have a separate supply of fabrics just for when I make baby quilts. And this is basically made with baby quilts. Also, the black and white was used for baby quilts. So look at your stash. Look at what you're doing. Get out of your comfort zone and also go and find things. So the next one I'm going to show you is how I did this. And let me get the original one. So this is the original quilt. That's what's going on. This is the Quilting Planner for 2019. I just love it. There's also different designs. I have somewhere the original, what I'm doing, the whole thing, but I don't know. So I have, what I did is I decided to do these colors, and I went on this fabric because I just love this fabric, and I put it into EQ8, designed it, and went, ouch. and I went looking for a solution, and I found one. It was this black, and I'm still not secure about this black because this isn't my comfort range. But I am going for a much different design, and I'm really glad that I'm doing it. I'm gonna sneak over and get this. This is basically what it's gonna look like compared to that. Okay, so pretty good, pretty good. And what's really different about this is how it's going to look compared to that. It's going to be used the same design, and that's why I really like to do it. This is the first block that I've already done, and I haven't posted it for the sew along yet. What I'm going to look at is how I pick these colors. Isn't only the colors, it's also the texture. If you look, this I found because I could still work with this because it's very different. The size, the geometry of the design is very different size. Every piece, the stripes, everything that I'm using is based on that. And that's why, even though I do like to dye fabrics, I can't get away from commercial fabrics because the balance of different textures I like using so much. And like I said, this I'm not as secure. I've changed things around several times. Hopefully I've made my last decision so I don't have to think about it and I can go on to my other projects because, like I said, this is not my comfort zone. Okay, so that's about all the things that I'm doing. I am playing all the time. You can see here I'm playing with fabrics. Sometimes I sit down and I have a cup of tea and I lay out fabrics and I play with them. Right here, what I'm playing with is what I got with my sewing machine. Fabrics that I really love that I never would have bought on my own. So that's kind of nice. That's a good reason to go shopping with a friend. Maybe they'll pick things out for you, or have a fabric swatch, fabric swap, because that way you can, somebody will pick something out you really like and you wouldn't have necessarily picked it out for yourself. Also another way of getting you out of your comfort zone, going out of your way. And if you work in one color and you always have it, try working without. See what happens and have a good time and try to focus. Like I said, I always go back to the organization, try to focus on the job at hand so we actually get something done. All right, thank you and have a great year.